Season 2 of the Canadian Powerlifting Podcast is brought to you by LVD Fitness. LVD Fitness is a powerlifting apparel brand that donates 1 month of clean water to a child in need for every item sold. Follow them on Instagram and Facebook at LVD Fitness to join the movement.
Welcome to the Canadian Powerlifting Podcast, the bi-weekly show that brings you the best of powerlifting in Canada. Our 3 co-hosts include Ryan Stinn, holder of the heaviest equipped squat and total in Canada, as well as owner of Unparalleled Training Center and co-owner of Inner Strength Products. Steve Cassioli, IPF world record holder and medalist, the 3rd strongest classic lifter in Canadian history, and owner of Cassioli Strength and Conditioning. Lastly, Avi Silverberg, world team coach and world bench press medalist, owner of PursuitOfStrength.com, a site dedicated to coaching and education for powerlifters. Today's episode starts right now.
Hello and welcome to the Canadian Powerlifting Podcast, Season 2. So excited to be back in front of the microphone here. I know that Steve and Ryan are equally as excited. We can't wait to bring you all the content here from Season 2. We have some fun things planned. We have some great guests lined up. This week on the podcast is kind of a special episode. We're going to just talk amongst us 3, Ryan, Steve, and myself, Avi, and we're going to recap a little bit about what happened at CPU Nationals and some of the things that came out of that. Not only the results, but some of the stories and some of the other noteworthy things to talk about. First and foremost, Steve and Ryan, how you guys feeling now? Season 2. We're kind of like veteran podcasters now.
Feeling great. I'm just excited to get Season 2 underway and a lot of new topics to be talking about. And glad to be talking with 2 of the most handsome guys in the CPU, you know.
Who else is here? Oh, you meant me. Oh, yeah. I feel good though. I'm excited about the season. I think we had really good feedback on the first season, and people are chomping at the bits to get some more content from us. So that's a good feeling. You know, it kind of goes to show that what we're tossing out there is what people want to hear. So again, if any feedback you have, send it our way. But really interested to get this season rolling.
And don't forget, if you like what you're hearing, you like Season 1, don't forget to go into iTunes and subscribe or any other podcasting app, and make sure to rate and leave a comment as well. That really helps us out on our end. And let's dive right into some of the things that are happening right now in powerlifting. As we're recording, the Arnold Sports Festival is just wrapping up, and there's just been some unbelievable performances at that championship. I've competed there the last 4 years. This is actually the first time that I'm not down there, and I'm seeing all the social media buzz and hype coming my way, and feeling like I'm missing out this year because there is some fantastic performances. Ryan, what have you seen on your end? I know that one of your powerlifting role models kind of did some big things this weekend.
My man crush Monday, my man crush every day for the next 1,171 and a half days, I think. Blaine Sumner, I think, is one of the nicest guys in lifting. And I say it about a lot of people, but, Blaine, I've talked to him a few times. I talked to him on Facebook, and he's just a really nice guy. And I couldn't be happier to see him succeed. He's had some struggles in the past with his lifting and getting depth calls, and rightfully so. He's had issues with depth in gear especially. But, he came out to the Arnold yesterday and put on an amazing show. 500 kilo squat, first 500 kilo squat in the IPF.
Which was a 10 kilo world record increase on the previous. Yeah. What about bench press?
401.5 kilo bench press. It actually took the bench only world record. It wasn't even the powerlifting bench press record.
I think the powerlifting bench press world record was somewhere around 380, 385 for the super heavyweights, but the bench only super heavyweight world record was 401, and there's been a couple guys in the bench only realm who have been around that 400 mark, but now Blaine's part of the group. He's part of the group, and he's putting up the biggest bench now in the history of the IPF.
Yeah, it's crazy, and to do that in a 3 lift, and I think lots of people know the difference between a bench only and a 3 lift, and the squat definitely takes some gas out of your engines, and benching afterwards can be a bit of a struggle sometimes. So it was pretty crazy to see.
And sometimes, you know what, actually, a lot of the super heavyweight guys that I know competing in 3-lift kind of lose a little bit of gas, a little bit of steam going into the deadlifts. You know, there are some misses that happen in the deadlift for super heavyweights when they get to that lift. But Blaine had a great deadlift as well. What did he deadlift, Ryan?
370, which actually wasn't a world record. I think it was the only not world record attempt of the day. It was the all-time highest Wilks in the IPF, 692.2 Wilks.
Absolutely insane. Yeah, I think that the previous highest Wilks before that was somewhere around 680, 670.
688 by Ukrainian Larissa Solovinova. I probably said that horribly. The highest men's before that, I think, was Carl Christensen, I think, at 669, I think, for a man.
Yeah, so absolutely just a crazy increase there. But not only that, the actual powerlifting world record total that he set was a 41 kilo increase on the previous world record total. That is absolutely insane to think about, how you just go out there and smash a 41 kilo total world record. I don't think that's absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, you can't even fathom breaking a record like that, considering all the strong super heavyweights that have preceded by that much. Just absolutely insane.
There's also a few other amazing performances too. So like Brett Gibbs, PR'd his total, so 801 kilos, and Keith McConey in my category, 66 open, he actually broke the world record total at 655 kilos.
And Bonica Lau, is that how you say it, her last name?
Bonica
Bonica Law. She put up a 600-pound raw squat. First ever female 600 raw squat. Absolutely incredible.
So to talk about, there's also, of course, there was a lot of Canadians down there, but it was 2 Canadians down there. Jamie Emberley competed on Friday in the Raw Challenge. He had a pretty good day. I think he went about 6 for 9. Definitely not his best performance, but good to see him go down there and compete. And then yesterday in the Slingshot Pro American, Steph Puddicombe, who just lifted at Nationals 2 weeks ago, competed equipped and put up, I think it was PRs across the board. She missed her second squat, but everything else was better than Nationals, and she ended up wilksing 541, which puts her up to the fifth best female equipped Wilks in Canada.
Absolutely great to see her getting into equipment. I love to see the classic transition into equipped style and seeing that you can see success in both styles. Don't forget, Leon Brown was down there. Now Leon Brown, 105 kilo lifter. He tends to compete in the open quite a bit. He competed in the opens at Nationals, but he did lift it in the. He's an M2. He has competed at the Arnold for the last few years. I remember competing alongside him down there for the last few years. He went down there competing in the classic bench only. Don't really know his ranking. I don't really know how he ranked, but I do know that he walked away with the world record in the bench press.
225.
Bench 225. He actually owned the open world record previously at 221.5, I believe. He added to that 225. So let's talk about Nationals. Let's talk about what happened at Canadian Nationals. Obviously, that's a big event for us here, not only for those who are attending it for the first time. They earned a spot to compete at Nationals, which is important, which is pretty elite. I mean, it's the most elite competition we have here in Canada. But then for those who are looking to go internationally, there was lots of fights to get on those top spots to make those international teams. Let's talk about Nationals. What was kind of memorable for you, Steve?
Definitely, the number one would be just how the meet was run as a whole. Like best meet hands down that I've ever been to. Just like volunteer-wise, the way it was run, like everything was just spot on. Like again, I can't think of any faults or anything like that. I don't know about you. Like, how do you think the meet was run?
Ryan's gloating now because obviously Ryan was the one who put on the championship.
That'd be the number one highlight there. But then another one would be the 93 kilogram open males battle it out.
Yeah, that was insane to see. There was actually That was in terms of depth, that was our largest class in the male category. I think there was something like 1893 kilo lifters, and I was coaching in that flight. One of my athletes, Mike McDonald, and we were trying to make a run for the podium, and I can't believe how tight and how close it was.
Even like just the top 5 or 6 were within like 10 kilos, was it not?
Most of the week is a total blur. I agree with Steve though on that class. I was watching the deadlifts from the side, and I couldn't believe how close it was. The last guy, and I'm gonna gap on his name, pulled from 6th till 2nd.
Yeah.
Like his attempt took him from 6th place to 2nd place in one pull. That's how close it was.
And it was a massive jump from his second to third.
Half or something?
Yeah, it was a huge Hail Mary shot, but when you're at the Nationals and you're at these higher caliber events, you take those Hail Marys to see, like it's either you're coming for a medal or you're, or
especially being in that environment, it's the place to do it, right?
Oh yeah.
Exactly. Ryan, what was one of your memorable moments?
Well, besides that 93 battle, it's hard to say. Like I said, it was such a blur of a week. To have lifted was nice. The last time we ran nationals in 2009 was the year I actually hurt my back. I hurt my back at nationals when we ran it in 2009. So, a part of me was just hoping to get through the week without hurting myself, which I successfully did. So I guess that was a high point. But it gives me such pride to put on an event for these athletes and to help athletes achieve the best they can by making sure everything runs on time, by making sure everything's running smoothly, there's no crazy delays. There's nothing worse than, you're expecting to start at a certain time and suddenly it's starting 20 minutes later, right? Mm-hmm. Cooling off. And that's always our goal, is that, if we have to delay, which I think we delayed 2 or 3 sessions. We were announcing that as fervently as we could, so athletes knew well advanced that they were delayed. So the only thing I will say, and I'm going to publicly say it for him, Larry Coe, I apologize. I mistakenly put him in the wrong flight, and we had to move him with a short time before his squats. So I'm publicly apologizing to Larry Coe. That was my mistake.
Yeah, I coached Larry, and there was a little bit of a mishap there where he was putting the second in the second flight. He was actually supposed to be in the first flight. We had 10 minutes to the start of the event when we found out, and we quickly hurried to get him warmed up. And yeah, I mean, you deal with adversity, you kind of got to roll with the punches, and that's what it comes down to. Like, you put in months and months and months, and you can't let something like that throw off your whole day. And he ended up having a couple PRs by the end of the day, and having a decent Wilks and a decent total. So we were happy. I'll tell you what my one of my memorable moments is, and this is just goes back to just kind of the finer points that Ryan really likes to make sure are taken care of when he hosts an event. And at the national level, the live streaming is obviously something that happens pretty frequently, but there was a nice touch to it this year where we had live commentators, and Ryan set up volunteers and speakers to actually come on the mics. I was privileged to do it for one session, which was super exciting, sitting next to 2 other commentators, and we were able to kind of go back and forth and kind of narrate and tell the story of what was happening, because often some people who are just tuning in, if they're family members or friends, they don't understand kind of how to read a live score sheet or some of the stories behind the athletes or some of the battles that are happening. And so that was a really cool thing that happened this year that I guess was memorable for me. And now, for those of you who don't know, I actually put in a bid to host the national championships, and I was actually successfully awarded that for 2018. And that is definitely something that I'm going to continue to do, building off of what Ryan did at this nationals. So Ryan, I know a lot of people are interested. I know we've talked about this, and hosting a nationals, hosting an event. Let's just dive into that just a little bit more. I really think that people are starting to appreciate that these are big events, that these are things that don't just happen overnight. But tell us some of the insights and tell us some of the things that happen behind the scenes, leading up to the event, or even just like when the event is going on. That is, tell us some insights in terms of like what happens when you're actually hosting an event of this magnitude?
Well, I mean, the first thing I'll say is it's a team effort. Lots of people were giving myself and Ryan Fowler credit for this, and it is a team effort, and it's not just myself, Ryan, my wife Rhea, Ryan's wife Heidi, that put the time in. We did a lot of the initial work, but we also leaned on our families to do stuff like making attempt cards, right? Like, I mean, you're making 400 attempt cards. It's time consuming.
I'm hosting an event next weekend in Calgary, and I'm putting together attempt cards, just stapling together the 9 attempts or the 11 attempt cards. And it's like, just for a 1-day meet, that's taking me 3 hours, right? Yeah. So even just stapling enough attempt cards can just be so time consuming, cutting and stapling.
Yeah, I mean, people don't, the paperwork that goes into it, like, we go through reams of paper, and that includes, everyone that filled out a lifter profile, we photocopied that lifter information sheet so that the live streamers had it and Gino had it, so that that information was available to everyone. I mean, I don't know how many sheets of paper went through. It's really bad for the environment, but there's so much work that happens beforehand that we couldn't do by ourselves, and the fact that we have people that we could lean on is so important. And then the volunteers, which Ray took care of. Ray did all the volunteer organizing. It was scheduled very well, good communication, and we only had, I want to say, 2 people who within 30 minutes before actually told us. We had no one not show up to volunteer. If they said they were coming, they either showed up or they notified us. And 2 people, the worst we had was a couple people that let us know a half an hour before, which sucks, but at least you have time to run around and find someone. So the volunteers that came out in droves, I think we had 130 or 140 individuals come forward and volunteer for this meet, and that doesn't include the referees or the rest of the CPU executive that works hours behind the scene as well. So the people that it takes an army, people have said it takes an army to lift, but to run a meet, it takes an army. And when you have a 6-day event like this, it's so much work, and it's exhausting, and I don't mean to complain about it. I would have, if you talked to me on Monday or Sunday, I probably would have complained about it. But it's the weeks. I actually went half-time at work for February, and the half of January, just to put time into this. I know Ryan Fowler, my brother-in-law, spent many nights up till 2 a.m. because he couldn't go half-time, so he had to work the nights. He had work at night, so it's a lot of work communicating with people and just payments. Ryan did all the payment stuff, so when you paid someone, it was usually him taking the payments. He was marking people paid. He was communicating with people when they had to pay back or when they needed to pay. Just so much work, right?
Now, one thing you're not mentioning, and I think is really critical to the kind of the success of any meet, but in particular when you're running so many athletes in one day, are the spotters and loaders. They have a really critical role. And I think that it's something where if you look at a successful meet versus a meet that is not as successful, that critical factor seems to be the spotters and loaders. And I mean, maybe Ryan, you want to talk about why that is, but those are really your key volunteers.
100%. And we are a little particular about who we put on the platform. We know not everyone is suited to be up there. And then most importantly, we actually will schedule 7 people on the platform. You can only spot with 5, but that means 2 extra people can run in and change rack heights, right? It speeds up. If you have someone who has to load the weights then change the rack heights, slows things down. So we schedule minimum 5 people on the platform, maximum 7 usually. But guys like that who will just come out and give of their time, right? I mean, they're taking time off to come do this for us, and the platform is hard, man.
Now, I want to just shift gears. Steve, you obviously competed at Nationals, and you had quite an interesting time at Nationals. You competed in one day, you competed in the Classic, and the very next day you competed in your first equipped meet. Now, a lot of people actually ask...
Semi-equipped.
Well, semi-equipped, and Ryan will probably give you a little bit of flack for that in a second, but a lot of people actually ask me, how is this Steve's first equipped meet? And it's at Nationals. How is it Steve's first equipped meet? And it's, in fact, you're raw total exceeds the equipped national qualifying standard. So yeah, you can lift equipped as long as you meet that qualifying standard. So you did your 1 day classic, and then you did your next day, your very next day you did it equipped. Let's talk about the classic. I was handling for you that day, and you were just on fire that day. You kind of had a new, you weren't really tapered, but you kind of did a new hybrid taper that seemed to work out for you.
Yeah, I mean, like, coming in, I was just, like, I was ready to perform and do well. Like, I know what I have in me, like, give or take the day of, or, like, leading up to it, I know what I'll be around. But, yeah, for this meet especially, I kept my volume quite high leading up into it, and didn't take 4 days off, but took it easy, like, dropped the volume for 4 days, and my body just seems to love that. Like, I felt fully recovered, and I came out and hit some PBs, actually. Not on my squat, actually PB on my bench press, 155 kilos. My previous best was 152.5. And on my deadlift, I took 250 on my second for a 2.5 kilo PB, and then on that last pull there, went for the world record total, 260. It was probably not in my cards, but already PR'd my total with the second pull. It's 646 kilos, so I said, why not throw it on, right?
Yeah, it was kind of unplanned. I mean, you didn't really going into the day say, hey, I'm gonna try to go for the world record total today. No, it was just kind of like you had a successful day. Second attempt. It was only after your second attempt deadlift, you already PR'd your total, like you said, and then it was like, hey, why not? It's only a 10 kilo increase on my deadlift to try to go for the world record total. Why not? And you actually almost had it. You got it to you got it above your knees. Yeah,
I think I was just again, like for me, I'm very fast on floor. It's just being patient and not rushing it, right? So that's gonna be it's gonna be in the work for me to pull a big deadlift for the win at Worlds, right?
And just talk about this taper. So you were pumping your normal kind of tolerance for volume leading up to the meet. You were just kind of keeping that fairly high, and then it was you only kind of really had a 4-day taper where you kind of dropped it 4 days leading up to the meet. Is that something where you're gonna implement moving into Worlds, or are you gonna try to go back to something that you feel is more like your bread and butter?
I'm gonna probably stick with it, to be honest with you. I mean, like, for me, it's like something works, I'm going to stick with it. Something's not working, I'm going to change it up, right? And so I took, my last heavy session was Saturday, Sunday completely off. Monday worked up to like, I think 80% squat bench. Wednesday or Tuesday did the same, or a bit lighter. Took Wednesday off, and that's it.
Yeah, it was very kind of a quick taper, but yeah, you were feeling.
That's all I needed, so. I mean, I think in the past I've done it maybe a lot longer, like a couple of days longer, and I think it's just too much time for my body. You're
such a machine, Stephen. You got to keep it greased.
I guess so.
Steve's one of these durable guys that he makes the durable list. I don't know if I make the durable list. I don't think you can make the durable list if you're a bench-only athlete. But Steve's one of these durable guys who then competed the very next day equipped, semi-equipped. Talk to us what that actually. Hold on.
First, I want to qualify, Steve. What you did was like old school raw. It was knee wraps and a bench shirt. That's what raw used to be in powerlifting.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
So you went into the day. You didn't wear a squat suit, but you wore knee wraps.
Yeah. So I wore knee wraps, very loose, apparently, according to Ryan. So
I was actually wrapping. I wrapped your knees for your first, and then I had a wrapping injury where like I started bleeding because my thumbs aren't durable enough to handle knee wrapping. So then Ryan jumps in there and he starts wrapping your knees, and you're like, holy crap, Ryan.
He's like, I'm like, oh, this is pretty tight. Like, and he's like, this is only like RP7, and I'm like, okay, take these off, because I wasn't going in like it was like 2 minutes till I was going. I'm sitting there. I'm like, I can't keep these on. So yeah, he took them off and rewrapped it. But whoever knees you wrap, I give them props, because you wrap those pretty tight for sure.
I wrap a lot of girls' knees.
Well, thanks.
So, Steve, what did you actually squat? Tell us about your lifts. You squatted.
Yeah, I ended up squatting 245 in wraps. I mean, it was pretty easy lift. Like, I didn't want to go too crazy. I mean, I just competed the day before, and I mean, I didn't have any goals specifically, right? I was there for the week, and I want to try it out, right? So
and then you went back to the warm room and started to warm up for bench press, and you were like, I don't think I'm going to put on my shirt. I'm like, Steve, you're putting on the shirt. We're putting it on right now. So you actually had a pretty decent bench press.
It was less than my raw bench, but yeah, it's a lot different. Like for me, I mean, like the weight that I hit, I think I hit 147.5 on my third. I mean, it flew, but for me, it's just a matter of setting my shoulders in the shirt. I mean, like I'm pretty much beginner in the shirt, and if you haven't done it a lot, then it's like just getting that set up for your shoulders in the shirt. It's very difficult. It's not like you just throw on the shirt and like automatically just bench 200 kilos. Like I look at the guys in my class at Worlds, and that's what they're benching around, like 180 to 200. And for me to get there, it's going to be a lot of work for sure.
And then so that was the bench press. And then moving in the deadlifts, so we tried the deadlift suit. But honestly, I agreed with you. It wasn't fitting properly. It was actually quite loose, and it was loose to the fact where the straps are actually falling off of you. So it really wasn't
Not
doing
necessary,
anything.
yeah.
And you got to have your straps up in competition. You can't have them falling off as you're coming down to bend over to grab the bar. So you actually did the deadlift raw, and you got a PR in the deadlift.
Yeah, and you laughed at me. So what happened was I same numbers, same second attempt, and then instead of going for 250 on my third to match it, I'm like 252, and then Abby started laughing at me. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, why are you laughing? I want to set a PB here. Like the second one moved fine, but I don't know what you saw. I guess you thought it was just slow, or I actually want to know what you thought on my second to make you laugh on my third attempt.
Well, the second one wasn't that light. It didn't look that light, Steve, but I was just in my head I was just like, yesterday you deadlift 250, you have an all-time PR total. And I'm just thinking, like, now he wants to go for 252, which is a PR deadlift, and he's literally done 17 max attempts in 2 days, and now he wants to go for a PR deadlift. But anyways, I mean, there was nothing to lose, right? There was nothing to lose. There was, and so we put it on, and you actually smoked it. It was your best lift of the whole meet.
Yeah, it was nice. It's good to see that I can do that. So yeah, overall, very happy with the performances, and moving on to Worlds now, which I'm extremely excited for.
Now, serious question here. Do you feel like competing back-to-back, because I'm thinking of a number of lifters at CPU Nationals who competed back-to-back, or maybe not even competed back-to-back, but competed multiple times throughout the week, Ryan Stinn being one of them, competing in the bench only and then in the Equips 3 lift. They were some days apart, but do you think competing maximally, competing in competition within close proximity like you did, like at Nationals, do you think that, and I know we've been joking about durability, but do you think it increases maybe your mental durability a bit so that, like when you actually do go into a meet like Worlds, you're thinking to yourself, this is just one competition, and this is, under 17 previous max attempts, I've done 252 on the deadlift. So why can't I do 255 or 260 or? So does it kind of build confidence mentally? Does it kind of increase your mental durability? Like, what kind of things does that help with?
Yeah, absolutely. Like for me, it was just like I said before, I was there for the week, and I just why not? Like it was kind of like after competing the raw, I was gonna go by feel anyways. Like the next morning, I think I competed 12 hours after, because it was the next morning I competed the previous night, so I was gonna go by feel anyways. Like if I wasn't up to it and felt like complete shit, I wasn't gonna do it. But I mean, for me, like you said, like I guess I'm pretty durable. Like I wasn't sore or anything. I was just mentally a little bit exhausted, of course, right? But after doing the 2 meets there, and just being able to pull that last deadlift for a PR on my like you said, 17th, 18th attempt, that definitely brings me some some confidence going into leading up to my training now, and considering that's probably like what I think is my weakest lift, so definitely brings some confidence.
Yeah, Ryan, do you have anything to add to that? Because I know you've done it on multiple occasions before. I mean, what does that kind of help with? I mean, physically, is that the thing to do? Like, is it damaging in a way, like doing two meets back to back, or do you feel like if you're listening to your body well and you kind of know your body, it can be okay, or does that mental benefit of building confidence for future competition, does that kind of outweigh maybe the physical detriment that it causes?
Well, I think it's different for everyone, right? Myself, this is probably the first time I've really seriously done it. I think in Vancouver Nationals, I did 3 lift raw, tried to do the equipped bench only the next day, I think, and bombed in it. So I wouldn't call it very successful. But like for this, because the bench only was Monday, and I didn't lift till Saturday, I basically just trained, or I just used that Monday workout as like a last heavy bench workout. So for me, it was pretty simple. But for some people, like my wife, who I should toot, whose horn I should toot, she went 21 for 21. She did 3 events, bench only, raw 3 lift, and equipped 3 lift, and but she is probably one of the most durable lifters I know. She can somehow do that, and I definitely can't. I didn't feel crushed by my workout or my competition on Saturday, but I don't think I would have wanted to do another competition on Sunday. That's for sure.
Yeah, just another point there. Just also, I guess it depends. So if I was going like all out equipped, had the gear, had some heavier weight, that probably could have been like detrimental, right? Because like I just went pretty heavy the day before. So if I was going for some pretty crazy numbers, I guess in a suit or bench shirt, that could have been, I don't know, a lot worse.
Yeah, but yeah, for somebody like you, Steve, like I think you're exactly on point. Is that you actually didn't lift maximally? Like even though you were going for that world record, even though on the third deadlift you were going for that world record total, and you still ended up with a PR to PR total. Yeah, your lifts weren't maximal. Like honestly, your squat had speed. Your
like a little bit more and everything for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, maybe that kind of saves your joints a little bit and doesn't make grinding slow the next day.
Mm-hmm. If you're grinding every lift out, on the first day, you're not gonna be able to do anything on the second day. But someone that should be brought up in this is John McDonald, who I would say is famous for going to the Arnold and competing, back to back. He did it before anyone else I knew, and I really couldn't believe he did it. It was unbelievable at the time. He would do raw on Friday, I think, and then equipped on Saturday, and would be competitive in both. It was really unbelievable.
And for those of you who don't know, John McDonald, he's done over 100 powerlifting competitions over the last 10, 12 years. So, I mean, he competes a lot and competes back to back. And it's interesting to hear the different perspectives. I mean, I'm going to admit that I'm probably not the most durable person.
All right. I will say that I don't think you're very durable, but I think that's because you don't build that durability up. I think
1 second here. Yeah, you have to do 3 lifts, right?
Well, the thing is I don't build the durability up because I don't need the durability, and you don't need the durability, especially because the past 2-3 months have really been dedicated to just classic bench training. I haven't been in equipment. I have had no reason to. I knew that I was coming to nationals, just do the classic bench only. I mean, like I'm kind of built for one purpose.
Let's talk about your.
I'm just built for pressing. Classic bench, 3 attempts. That's all I've been training for. So
let's talk about your competition there, Avi. Bench only, and first time benching 500 pounds there. It's a pretty big milestone.
My competition went really well. Honestly, my goal going into the meet was not to bench 500 raw. I knew that it could be a byproduct of my primary goal, which was to come away with the best classic raw Wilks. It's something I've won before. Best bencher, but this year I knew that there was more competition than in previous years. In particular, Shane Martin from Alberta, who sits on the executive here with me, he's always been a great bencher, but his classic numbers and equipped, he broke the equipped bench record at Nationals actually. He was also competing in the classic, and his classic numbers are moving up. And another guy, Colton, I can't remember pronounce his last name, Colton Prento. He's from Saskatchewan, and I first kind of got wind from him I think Westerns was like his second meet or something like that back in December, and I saw that he put up a massive 217 kilo bench at 105, so I knew he would be in the running for the Wilks as well. So it was kind of us 3 going back and forth, and it was honestly very strategic. All the number selections, my opening attempt, second attempt, just trying to inching ahead of him, and he actually went for the unofficial world record bench press on his third attempt. So if he made that second attempt, I would have had to gone 232 for the best overall Wilks. But if he missed it, which he did, I only had to go to 227. So I actually put 227 on the bar, and it just so happened that it was a 500 raw, and that was the number I needed to win. And I knew it was in my wheelhouse. I really had to get fired up for it. If you saw me backstage, I was probably fired up, the most fired up I've been in a long, long time. And I was successful. It was good. I felt really good that I was able to put that up. And props to those other guys because it could have been anybody's day for sure.
Can you tell everyone what your next goal is with 500 pounds?
Well, I'll tell you this. There's only one real goal in benching. It's what everybody should strive to do, and that is 500 raw in competition, but no handoff.
That's right.
No handoff is the key. And if you really want to set a high goal, I know Ryan would probably say that this is the true raw form of benching is no wrist wraps. No wrist wraps, no handoff, 500 pounds raw. So yeah, that's the next goal. That's probably, it's just kind of whatever. I mean, it's just a stupid fun goal, but I mean, why not, right? Why not have something fun to shoot for? But no, my next serious goal is I'm actually I'm qualified and registered to go to South Africa for the very first IPF Classic World Bench Press Championships. So yeah, in South Africa this May, and we actually have a decent team going. 6 benchers so far. Qualification or the nomination period is not up yet. So there's still a few weeks for those classic benchers from nationals to submit their nomination if they want to go. But yeah, it's looking like a good team so far, and I think if I can hold my strength and maybe just increase maybe just slightly, I might have a shot for the podium. So I mean, going to the first classic World Bench Press Championships is definitely something that, as a bench presser, is kind of cool to say.
How about you, Ryan?
I took almost 2 weeks off after nationals, which I don't know if I've ever done that. It's a long time off for me, but I think I need a little bit. Your
body probably feels great now, though.
No, it hurts so much. Couldn't believe it. The first day back in the gym, I laid on a foam roller, and everything hurt me. I don't know what I did. I think it was muscle atrophy. My muscles were eating themselves.
Let's actually talk about that for a second, because I think it's quite interesting. And talking to some of my athletes, talking to just some of my friends, what happens after competition? Because there's kind of a crash. There's kind of a crash after competition, physically, right? Like you've been in this tough training for the last 3-4 weeks leading up to the event, really high intensities, and it's kind of like you peak really hard, you lift your 9 max attempts, and then post meet you kind of crash physically a little bit. It's like you go in the gym a few days later, and 60% feel heavy. Right? Like they feel heavy, they feel slow. But not only that, there's kind of a mental crash too, right? Where you're kind of, psychologically, you're not kind of, the motivation is a little bit lower. You just kind of, especially, and this is very interesting, I've talked to some athletes who had really, really successful experiences at nationals. Athletes who had unbelievable, PR totals, PR Wilks, qualified for teams, perhaps, but they've kind of mentally gone to a little bit of a slump from a motivation standpoint, because it's just like, I just had this massive meet. How am I ever going to
top that?
How am I ever going to top that? That's exactly kind of the mentality, and get down on yourself a little bit. So you guys find that? Do you guys find that you have this physical crash, this mental crash? Steve, what do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, I think for a majority of people, right, because your volume, like when you come back after meet, you might take a week off, whatever, but coming back, you're obviously going to get into some volume again and stuff, right? But leading up to that, leading up to your meet, you're working with such heavy weights, such low volume, right? So then it's like your total opposite ends, and your body has to catch up to that, right? And take some time to adapt into that new phase that you're going to get into, right? But for me, anyways, I like taking that week off. Like after nationals, I mean, took a complete week off. A lot of people probably think, oh, you're going to lose your gains, you're going to lose strength, everything, whatever. I mean, you're training, for myself anyways, you're training 6 days a week, right? And I'm doing that for a couple of years now. And taking a week off, if anything, you'll probably feel better rather than, you're not going to lose strength. You may feel like the bar or whatever may feel a little bit heavier on your back, hands, whatever, but you're not going to lose strength. If anything, I think that's good for your body physically and mentally, and I mean, I'm ready to roll now into Worlds, so.
Yeah, and I'm actually generally the opposite. After competition, I like to get back in the gym almost as soon as possible. And in fact, some cases I've actually trained the day after competing. I find it's much easier to get going again if I don't take that break. If I take a break, that first few workouts, everything hurts so bad that it's just ridiculous. So a lot of times, some of my best turnarounds have been training the day or taking one day off and then back at it. I know in Vancouver again after nationals, I did a squat workout the day after I did my 3-lift competition because I just wanted to get blood flow right. It's nothing. You're not doing anything amazing, but you're still moving and things aren't tightening up. And because I think this time I lifted. Sunday was teardown day, so we had a busy day running everything back to Moose Jaw, and then Monday kind of crash. And I don't do anything. Like I'm not foam rolling. I'm not doing any kind of mobility work, and everything just tightens up, right? So if I'm back training right away, I'm doing that mobility work that I should be doing anyway. So I think that helps, right? If you're gonna take time off, at least try and do mobility work and make sure you're loosening stuff up.
Yeah, like I mean, by the time off I took, I was still other doing sports, hiking, still rolling, mobility. I was still doing stuff, not just sitting down and thinking about not lifting.
Lots of people will sit on a couch for a week and eat pizza, right? And then you can't get back in the gym.
Exactly.
You can't move anymore.
Well, I'll tell you what. When you do 3 classic benches, you can literally walk from the competition platform back to the warm room and start hitting triceps and back work and biceps. It's just all part of the workout.
Well, like, I mean, for you, like if you're
doing anything.
Well, your week after post meet is probably training legs a little bit, right?
Training a little bit of legs, doing a little bit of squats, doing a little bit of leg curls. Absolutely.
You gotta have those knee sleeves on all the time.
I know. I actually did some squats post nationals with no knee sleeves. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see the video. But I'll tell you this: my knees felt fine. My hamstrings were just cramping like crazy, but that probably had nothing to do with the knee sleeves. Just probably because I don't squat enough. But no, I think it varies. I think it varies between person to person. You kind of got to know what works. But I do agree with both of you that just complete rest where you're not doing anything, where you're not just staying at least active, if you're not walking, if you're not doing mobility, even just moving the bar around, working your soreness out through the actual ranges of motion helps. I think it helps. I think the only time when you should take like complete rest and have complete total time off from doing anything is mentally. I know some people post meet, if they literally hate going to the gym, if they literally have if they're not enjoying it and they hate it and they just need like some actual days away from the gym and from doing anything, I think that's fine mentally, so that you kind of get to the point where it's like, okay, 5 days, I haven't done anything, I can't wait to get back to the gym. And it's like that sort of attitude is what's gonna help you. But for the most part, I think if you're a competitive athlete, I think it's the other way around. It's like people don't take enough rest and they just like, I want to get back, and they go way too hard too soon. There's a few guys who I'm starting to work with now and starting to coach, and they came back from nationals, and the week after nationals they were doing 90+% loads. And these are obviously guys that don't have the experience and don't have the years under them, but it's like that's not the right approach either, because you come off this meet, you see where all of your deficiencies are, you see where all your weaknesses are, all these areas for improvement, and you're just like, I can't wait to get back, and you start hammering it too soon. That's not good either, because you got to give your body a chance to actually recover, and give your joints a break, just so that you can have that longevity and so you can work towards your next goal.
Yeah, I think mentally, I want to talk about something you talked about earlier, the mental side of needing a break, and that after it's harder after a big success to come back. There's 2 times in my life that's happened to me. The first time was, I think, about 2007 or 2006. I've been striving for, on the old, even on the CPU page now, there's that elite master class 1, class 2, class 3 categorizing system. And when I first started lifting, I decided I really wanted to hit that master number, right? I think it was 845 kilos at the time. It's changed since because the category's changed, but 845 was the number I wanted to hit, and I remember hitting that at a meet. I think I went 9 for 9, hit all my lifts, and afterwards I sat down and I said, how am I going to get better than that, right? Like, I've just achieved what I've been striving for so long. And then the second time that happened was after last nationals where I hit 1,003. It was the same thing. I chased that number for, years, and you hit it, and it makes you sit back and go, now what, right? I'm not satisfied with that, and it kind of makes you sit back and go, will I ever be satisfied? Like, I'm happy I hit it. I'm proud that I reached that milestone, but I'm not satisfied, and do I have it in me to do more, right? Do I have it to push again for another 5 years to hit the next milestone, right? Like,
yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah,
it's tough. And if you never hit that, then good for you. But for me, I sat down and said, man, am I gonna do this for another 5 years to hit 1,100 or whatever it might be? Do I have it in me to go to the gym 6 days a week again for 5 more years and sacrifice? I mean, people don't talk about the sacrifice that lifting causes, right? Training 6 days a week, that's what I do. I go to the gym after work, I come home, I eat supper, I go to bed, right? That's my life. It's so do I go out for supper with friends very often? No, not really, because I go to the gym, and it's sacrificing. But to say that, I mean, I love powerlifting, I love what I do, but there's times where especially after you hit a milestone, you're like, well, can I just take some time to live, right? To live a normal life. And then once that passion is back, then you want to strive. It's way easier to get back into it after a crappy meet, right? Where
it 100% is.
Lifts, you miss a couple lifts, and you're just burning to get back in the gym. You want to compete again right away. You want to hit these numbers. You're so mad, but when you hit everything and you feel good, then it's tough.
That's why I missed the last deadlift on purpose, right?
But no, Ryan, it's funny. It's very interesting to hear you say that, and I think just what I'm taking away from what you're saying is, it is much easier to get motivation to go back into the gym when you have a crappy meet than it is when you have an all-time successful meet, 9 for 9, PR Wilks, PR total, you hit your milestones, to go back to the gym after that. And it's funny because, even the most veteran guys feel like that. Even the most veteran lifters feel like that. I've heard of lots of scenarios after nationals where people have been training 6 days a week for the last 10 years, and they just took the most amount of time off the gym that they've ever taken off in their whole life, which is whatever, 10 days or 14 days or whatever. But still, it's a big deal. But now they're kind of, after talking with them, they're like, yeah, I can't wait to go back again. And yeah, I kind of, I got my new goals and I know what meet I'm training for and these sorts of things, right? But not every meet can be those milestone meets. Not every meet is going to be all-time success, right?
No, that's probably
and
good.
It's like, how do you train through those lulls, and how do you train through, most meets are not going to be what you have in your own mind every single time. It's not going to live up to those expectations in your mind every time. So it's, how do you train through those lulls, those long periods when you're not doing that.
So just like you were mentioning there, having high expectations versus the realistic expectations. You probably saw that with a lot of lifters, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It really frustrates me, actually. I know Ryan will agree with me here, but there's a lot of new lifters and there's a lot of first-time national athletes. And let me tell you this: there was a lot of first-time national athletes who were doubting themselves a little bit, and I shouldn't be here. Everybody's so much stronger. And you know what I say to those athletes? I say, you went through your qualification standards. You went through your you went through the process of qualifying. You deserve to be here, and you should feel like you deserve to be here, and you should lift, right? It's good that you come and you lift with better athletes. Then there's also those athletes who come on the national stage, and they haven't been training for very long, and they just have these crazy expectations that they're going to podium or they're going to break a record, and it's like they don't have a perspective of who the people are in their class and how long they've trained and how long they've actually been, how many nationals they've been to, and how many maybe even international meets they've been to. And it's like, just take a step back and realize, like, these guys have worked or girls have worked a long time to get to where they are. And, you're going to have to put in 3, 4, 5 years worth of national championship and national level experience to get a shot at the podium. Like, to move on to the podium at the national level now is quite it's quite a feat. It's very competitive.
I think one thing I always say about athletes is, there's two types of athletes that go to nationals or international meets. There's the kind that go see the next level of competition and go, I'm done. Like, I'm never going to get there, right? And they stop lifting or they lose all motivation. And there's some who come and see that next level and go, all right, I'm not there yet, but I'm going to be. And they buckle down and work for it. And it's two different types of people. Two people that that can see the mountain to climb and say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? But some people just, they look at that. I got to work for 5 years to get there because some people see so much success so quickly in the sport. Because as a new lifter, you make gains just by walking into the gym and changing your shoes. So, but once you get to the point where not every workout is a personal best, then you go, well, I have to actually work for this, and it's sometimes you lose that motivation. It's hard to say, okay, I'm going to put in 12, 16, 24 weeks of hard training to see a good personal best now.
And I'll give you an example, Ryan. I mean, most people know that a couple years ago when I competed at the Arnold Championships, I think it was in 2014. Actually, it was 2014. I went and I benched 300 kilos. It's the biggest bench I've ever done. It was a national record. Put me third all time on the equipped bench rankings. A huge milestone for me. Obviously, 300 kilos. Everybody kind of wants to get to that. If you're a 120 or 120 plus. So huge lift for a Canadian lifter. I think only maybe one other person has done over 300 kilos in Canada in the CPU. So it's a big lift. But when I did it at the Arnolds, there was 14 people in my class, and I placed seventh with that lift. So, I was excited because I did this lift, but how excited can you be when you're middle of the row? Do you know what I mean? So it's you have to put yourself in those environments and see, like, hey, I don't want to be kind of a big fish in a small pond. I want to compete against the best, and I know what the best are doing, and I know their history, and I know how long they've trained to get there, and I'm going to try to get there too. So if you have to be putting up 320 kilos, not 300 kilos, well, then that's the mark, and that's what you're training for. And it's when you get to that level of, okay, moving from a 300 kilo bench to a 320. I mean, that could be 5 years. That's not something that just happens like, oh, I'm going to tweak my equipment. I'm going to be able to do that in 6 months. That's quite a bit away, especially when you're not new to the sport anymore. So, yeah, and you know what I loved? I got to give a shout out to Brittany Bergen. Actually, she competed in the 57 kilo open category.
Yeah, it's very competitive class, and I've coached Brittany since last summer. I was coaching her bench for a while, and then she decided to commit fully to powerlifting. She competed last year at nationals and came in with some lofty goals, and I don't think she didn't perform quite as well as she wanted to last nationals, and I think that actually really set a fire under her. Right, she has a really good build and could be a really good lifter. And is a good lifter. I shouldn't say could be a good lifter, but could be an exceptional lifter, right? So she placed third.
She lifted fantastic. She lifted really well. And just to put context on that third place finish, first and second, Maria Hatti placed first, Jessica Benabino placed second. Those two ladies had the top two highest Wilks, female Wilks in the whole meet. She placed third to them, and third was. There was competition for that third place. It's not that there was just 3 people in the class. There was a deep class as well. I actually listened to, Brittany has a podcast, Project Possible. I actually listened to her podcast, listened to her talk about some of the goals that she had moving into the competition. But the way that she structured her goals, I found to be very useful. And it was that she had multiple goals. And the goals were not equal across the board. She actually had tiered levels of goals. So like her, she had a goal that, her first level of goal was, okay, like if I meet this goal, I'm going to have some success. And it's something that she knew she could do, right? So she, that could be a PR, or that could be, either a PR on an individual lift or a PR on a total. And then it moved up from there. And then, the next tier was like, okay, I want to make the podium. And then the next tier was like, okay, I don't want to just make the podium. I actually want to come in second. Like, I'm going to see if I can beat Jessica this year. And so these different levels of tiers of goals actually provided her a way so that she could walk away finding some success. So is she going to reach all 3 tiers? Probably not. Is she going to reach at least one? Yeah, of course. And so it was actually really interesting to get that perspective. And it was interesting to hear her say, like, yeah, I made the podium. I hit one of the tiers of my goals. And I think a lot of people coming to nationals are coming to these higher level events, and they have one goal, and they have a singular way of defining success. They just say, I have to do this or I fail. And there were instances, I'm not going to name names, but there were instances of, guys thinking like that and other lifters thinking like that, where it's like, if I don't come first and I don't qualify for the world team, I have failed. Doesn't matter if I've PR'd any lift. Doesn't matter if I've PR'd my total, PR'd my Wilks. Doesn't matter if I, went out and I did the best I could. Yeah. I will fail if I don't make the world team. And it's like, that's not really the best perspective.
Start off with thinking about your squats, and then slowly build on that, right? Because you start thinking about the world's ready. You haven't even squatted yet. So how are you going to make it there without your first squat in the bag, right?
Exactly, and it kind of goes back to those realistic expectations, right? And what Brittany said, it's just having multiple goals. Don't just have one goal for the meet. Have different goals, so that at least when you walk away at the end of the day, you can find some success in your day.
Yeah, very similar. Just like I go out there and think of every individual lift. So when I go out there when I'm warming up, I just think about that warm up set. I go out there for my first lift. That's all I'm thinking about. Got to think of it lift after lift, right? You can't start thinking about, oh, I hit my first squat. What do I have to pull now to get my total? But you haven't even hit your second squat yet, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
You can't think of it like that. You got to go lift by lift.
It's really important that, and I always tell people to, if I'm coaching someone, they're like, okay, on my second attempt, I want to go, 10 kilos up. I'm like, well, can we finish your first attempt first, or can we finish your first warm up first? Never look past the next lift that you're doing.
Absolutely.
Always focus 100% on that next lift, and then go from there.
Well, I think that's a good end point to our first episode of our second season here. Ryan, what kind of things are we looking to do here in the second season?
Well, I think we're going to change our formats up a little bit. We're going to try to modify a few things to make it maybe a little more listener friendly. Maybe just a little more interesting in some of the aspects. It's exciting to keep doing this, and I'm looking forward to discussions. I love every guest we had in the first season. I learned something from, and I'm really excited to see what I learned this season.
Steve, what about you, man?
Just to make the whole podcast run a lot smoother. I mean, for us, it was our first time podcasting as a group, and I mean, we got great feedback, right? Bring on some new sponsors, potentially get up to some more events. I think we can do that, right? More live podcasts.
Absolutely, and we're working on a guest list for season 2. So stay tuned, because we're gonna have some fantastic guests coming up, and our frequency is gonna be the same every other Thursday. Tune in, and don't forget, if you like what you're listening to and you want to support the podcast, definitely go on iTunes or any other podcast app and rate and subscribe. I think that's it. We'll have a guest for next episode, and that's it.
This episode was brought to you by LVD Fitness, where LVD stands for Lift, Visualize, and Dominate. Visit lvdfitness.com to pick up your CPU-approved swag, and follow them at LVD Fitness to find out which events they're coming to near you and to catch a sneak peek of their spring collection.
You've been listening to the Canadian Powerlifting Podcast, the podcast that brings you the best of powerlifting in Canada, hosted by Stephen Cassioli, Ryan Stinn, and myself, Abby Silverberg. Please follow us on Instagram and check out our website for some great free powerlifting content at www.canadianpowerliftingpodcast.com. If you like what you heard today, please rate our podcast on iTunes and don't forget to listen to every other Thursday for a brand new episode.